All right, happy Lunch and Learn Friday. I am here with a very engaging and fun group from Northern Shores Elementary. So I'm going to first turn it over to them for some introductions, and I think they may have a fun fact or two for you all.
Hi guys, I'm Lori White, very proud principal at Northern Shores Elementary School. And my fun fact of the day is that my twin daughters, who also attend Suffolk Public Schools, are turning 14.
Okay, and I'm Miss Valdivieso. I am a gifted resource teacher, but a fun fact folks may not realize is I started out in the theater. My first job was at the Lost Colony, and then I worked at Virginia Opera. My dream was to become a lighting designer, and that didn't happen, but I did end up teaching. This is my 29th year teaching. I taught English, nobody knows that, 7th graders for 16 years. And now I'm doing gifted, and I just love it. I get to work with my gifted students, and I get to co-teach and co-plan with the other classroom teachers and work with their kids as well.
Hey everybody, it's Miss Mathias here. I'm the 3rd grade educator at Northern Shores as well as the web mistress. And a fun fact about me is that on my very first day of teaching, I had a news crew in my room. No, I did not do anything illegal. It was because I was teaching at Booker T my first year, and that happened to be the last year we piloted year-round school in Suffolk. And so Kurt Williams and his crew came in my classroom filming as I was talking about rules and procedures, and that was nerve-wracking.
Melanie Renor, 4th grade teacher at Northern Shores. I have been at Northern Shores 21 years now. So not quite from the very beginning, but almost. Reminds me, Mary, when you said I was on TV on Channel 3 as well, but for being the biggest fan during football season one year, they came and filmed in my classroom, and I got to rock out all my Patriots gear and have my big virtual Tom Brady there. And so, yeah, so that was kind of a Suffolk Public Schools meets football fans go to. But yeah, so that's my fun fact. Love football.
My husband's a big Tom Brady fan, so he'll appreciate that little plug in there. And
yeah, did you see him throw the Lombardi Trophy off a boat? Oh my gosh!
Yes, but only he could do that and know full well it would end where it was supposed to. So. Well, no pressure, but it sounds like we have some TV personalities on today. So everyone who's watching is going to expect perfection. So no pressure, but put yourself out there. So with that pressure in mind, let's jump in and talk a little bit about some of the awesome things going on at Northern Shores that you're excited to share with our colleagues.
Sure, absolutely. So we have these 3 phenomenal educators with us today. And Dr. Culp, you just hit the nail on the head, because I think they're going to share some ways that they use those bubbling personalities and the technology that we have available to really engage the kids and build community and collaboration across their classrooms. So they're going to share some ideas. There's a lot of vertical collaboration from PK5 in the building. Miss Val can really attest to that in a few minutes. So they're going to share how we are in this virtual world, not only using technology to build community and collaboration, have students create products together to show mastery of concepts, but also recognizing that we have kids that really require that tactile experience, that hands-on learning, and how we're finding that balance for all students here at Northern Shore. So I am going to let their personalities shine and let them share with you guys exactly what they've been working on and the success that they've seen.
All right, so who's going first?
I can go first if you want.
Jump in, Miss Val.
Okay, well, working with our gifted kids, they are in the program because they have different abilities. Some are really good verbally, some are really good non-verbally, and some are really good with math. So I like to always include a lot of logic and reasoning that involves all those things. They also love to talk to each other. So I put them in breakout rooms as much as I can. They love it. I put them in there. I give them something to work on. And I sneak in sometimes. They're going, oh, I love this. I love this. So they love working with each other. Mm-hmm. But something I just did recently that I thought was a lot of fun is we looked at the year 2020 in review, and they picked out some events that were really important or special to them. And they did their brainstorming in an individual Jamboard. And then they got together the next week and they all were put into groups where they did a shared Google Doc and they wrote the story, The Journey of a Penny, in their shared doc. And then when we were through with that, we talked about, how to, critique each other's writing, how to take constructive criticism, how to give it. And they were able to fill out Google Forms critiquing their own story and the other group's story. And then we shared those, but nobody knew who said what. So I thought that was a really great way for them to work together and to share together and learn some of those communication skills and, collaboration skills together. So.
When Nina and I were talking about this presentation, I said that I have a new thing that I just kind of stumbled upon that I want to try, and it's educaching. So, geocaching is big around here. There's geocaches hidden in different parks and things. Mm-hmm. Well, so it's similar. You still use a GPS coordinate. So they would use a tablet or a phone, but you would hide like an educache box. So whatever subject matter we were working on, like we're getting ready to go into talking about the oceans next in science and the Civil War. The Civil War would be kind of cool to do. So you go up to the school and you kind of make it a safe space. Mr. Masani did something similar with QR codes when he did a race. So, and then you just kind of, you use the GPS coordinate to hide the geocache box, and they have to interact with different things, write down their clues, write down the evidence they found, and then come back and kind of share and collaborate about it. So, it's tying the technology in with still hitting the tactile stimulation. Every day I hold a science group after lunch, and I have pretty much the same kids that attend faithfully, and they are given the materials like I tell them ahead of time, and so they can play along. But a lot of them just come and watch because they're just amazed by it. It's like we made homemade Play-Doh and then use that to show the relation and sizes of the sun, the moon, and the earth. If we hold it really, really, really small. So just getting to do those hands-on things. We made butter one day. We made last couple days ago, we took eggs, soaked them in different liquids they drink every day, water, juice. I used iced coffee, was horrified. But just, to show them like, okay, this is the damage it does to the enamel on your teeth. And then those things are the things that they really look forward to and they love. And we offer extra credit opportunities, such as making a recipe when we did nonfiction text and real world text, making a recipe from scratch and sending us a picture. For Black History Month, we've been incorporating a lot of different things in music and art and things into our reading lesson plan. So this week we learned about the history of step, how it started with gumboot dancing in Africa. And so they can make a video of them stepping with themselves or with family and send it to us for extra credit. So we're trying to hit all the modalities to make sure they're not screen time all the time.
Can I add something to that? I went to the Children's Engineering Conference last week, which of course was virtual, and they were talking about how important it was to do STEM activities. And they suggested to have the kids just get a box at home and start collecting paper towel rolls or anything they think it would be fun to build with. And then when you give them a STEM activity to do, they've already got a kit of what they can use.
That's a good idea.
Really good. Yeah, and Ms. Benor, when you were talking about the recipe, that's one of those things that I feel like sometimes functional text is not relevant to them. And, really just trying to reflect this year, out of, the saying, out of hard things come good things. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot of things that I've been excited to try. I really, really love to create content and film content and edit content. So I've actually found some abilities fleshed out in my professional life. And I really love filming the recipe in action. So there's two things that I focused on is really getting those kids engaged and anticipating our literature, really preparing them, promoting them, and encouraging them. Maybe your PPE of pedagogical things. But anyways, so one of the things I did, I challenged myself, was to create my own book trailer for a reload instead of depending on someone else finding it on YouTube. I was able to do that with one of my very favorite books, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I was really very blessed 6 years ago to be able to go to Oxford and to go to the Kilns, his home, And it was incredible. I remember being in the breakfast room crying like an emotional American because I couldn't believe I was in C.S. Lewis's breakfast room, But it was so wonderful to be able to bring items back from the UK because I went to the UK last year, London and Scotland last year. So I brought more things back. But I created a video showing, an Oyster card, which is what you fill to ride the tube. And even a red, telephone booth bank. And we talked about just some of the history, what was happening in the background of that book of World War II and the tube stations, how they would, go below and sleep there for the night. And because I am the book geek that I am, proudly, I have an old wardrobe in my home. And so in the video, I show myself, because, many of these children don't really have the background knowledge for a wardrobe. They don't understand when the book it talks about she no longer felt the wooden back of the wardrobe, but felt, the trees. So I actually opened up the wardrobe as if I was going to go in, and I said, this is what it looks like at the back of the wardrobe. And the kids loved it. They had learned so many things from that. And then so after that, I thought, well, hey, let me try this with functional text with recipes. So there's an assignment that we usually use called pint-sized pizzas. And I filmed myself making this. So I showed myself going out to my little porch garden, getting the fresh basil and spreading the sauce and all this stuff, and actually showed the recipe and reading it and using the nonfiction text feature to help me understand, using those transitional words that we talk about in writing and using that in a real way. And what was really cool is that, I share this with my grade level. So my grade level used this as a video / assignment. And we had so many third graders that commented on that video that they had tried it with their own families. So it was wonderful to see that, hey, recipes are not just something we're doing in school. This is something for real life. And it really helped by creating a video and content. It really helped my reluctant readers to see how this is real in their own lives.
Right.
Absolutely. I think it's engaging. And I had several families email me and say, oh my gosh, it was so much fun being able to do this with them. And, it created a family moment as well. So, making sure that we are, while embracing all the new fun technology that we're using. And, right now we are really having to play to a theater role, to get them pulled in through a camera. You are on your A game all day long with these guys, and you have to be able to be silly and funny and, goofy all at the same time while relating the content. We discovered that family, that family outreach is just as essential for them to feel connected to virtual learning as well. It's so important for them to feel like this really is school, that, we have to keep reiterating that, we are in school, we are having class, this is school. And now they are in the habit of telling each other, we are in school, this is school. And so, just kind of making sure we keep it fresh and always looking for new things to use to motivate them and engage them.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback for just a moment because I think you said something that was really important there, Ms. Bernor. And it's educating the parents also on how to navigate this. When we talk about community and collaboration, the parents are just as instrumental, and that's K-12. And one of the ways I've consistently seen you all and the colleagues here at Northern Shores engage parents is you're really great about helping support and teach our families through video. Ms. Mathias jumps in my mind right now. She recently recorded, I don't know if you use Screencastify or which platform you use, but she recorded a video for parents so that they know exactly how to access the report card on Hack, how to print it. So there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes as well. So, a lot of these same strategies that we're using with kids, they're also using with the families to keep them connected and engaged. When Canvas, everybody was in just this haze of Canvas when school started. Let's just be honest. Everybody was learning. Teachers were learning. We were learning. Families were frustrated because they didn't quite know how to navigate it. So there were a lot of videos that the teachers took throughout the building, really walking parents through the process of how to log in, how to access the module, how to get into a Jamboard with Ms. Val's class. So I think that's really important to note.
And this is something I did at the end of last year's school year, but with our fifth graders and fourth graders, they always have a chance to say goodbye or do like a farewell day or something. So I had them do a flip grid it was their memory journal for the year. So the kids got to record, something that stood out in their minds in the past year, and the parents got to also. And then I gave them a digital copy of that, to share. And I also, computer science and coding is really big, and our kids really need to know what to do with that, because that is the future. And this COVID has brought me out. I'm gonna tell you what, I never thought I would know all this stuff this time last year. But what we've always done at Northern Shores is we've always done our family STEM nights, and they have been really, really great because the parents love to come and do things with their kids. So we tried in December this year, Code Virginia does a family coding night. So we had an event where they could all get together with their kids and practice coding with an instructor from Code Virginia. And we're also planning this May, whether it's in person or virtual, we're going to have a family STEM night. And we're going to work with Scratch, I think, because there's a group in Chicago that did that, and they've given all their information out about how to plan this entire night. So that's something I'm really excited about doing. So.
I definitely think we are creating, out of all of this comes the technology was more of a toy in the past. I feel like sometimes in the classroom, the kids treated their Chromebooks as something like it was, something to play on. Now they truly feel and see that their Chromebooks are learning instruments, and they're so much more savvy than we're giving them credit for. Like they'll talk each other through, how to do things, or they'll say, "Can you put the link in the chat?" Oh, you're on mute. Like, hey, the technology buzz is all there with them, but they're learning truly how to understand that Chromebook is a tool for learning for life. That it's something it's a piece of equipment. It's not a toy. It's not something to be played with. And I think that they're learning a new respect for it while also learning, how to navigate around, and they're doing it so well, like more than we've given them credit for. I think we're really, they're becoming so independent in so many ways, which is a good thing. That's what we want to teach them. We want to teach them how to be independent.
I'm sorry. The big push for computer science is not so much that they have to have hands-on, but that they learn the vocabulary. They're already doing computer science in their classes. Algorithms are just steps. They're learning about, analog. If they have a problem, they have to fix it. That's debugging. So I think they've learned a lot from being virtual that they can use when we come back to school to help solve problems and, navigate through their classes.
And I agree, Miss Val, the whole problem solving piece is that whole way of thinking. It's not necessarily about teaching them a program. It's teaching them how to think.
How to get through it, yeah.
We're training these kids for careers that don't even exist right now.
Right.
And we realize too that they're digital natives. We give them more credit because they can actually figure these things out. Like I've seen my own students when maybe something wasn't posted correctly, or especially in the early days when we were all learning Canvas, and some of my kids were like, "Oh, well, if that's blocked or if that's not coming through, copy paste the title and to start, do a Google search for it, and something will pop up." So I really am excited to see the forethought and how kids are, even though they may have a tech problem, they're learning how to self-advocate. They're learning also how to email me. I have third graders, so they're learning many times now. I'm hearing more from the kids than from the parents. And I'm actually able to reach them faster and help their tech problems. And they're also learning how to advocate for themselves and speak up for themselves. Because
I agree. I'm noticing that too.
This is the beginning, their online learning, they're going to be doing this, even more so than we thought after this whole experience. So these are good life skills they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've all hit on some really important points. I see so many connections to the 5 C's with the Virginia Profile of a Graduate in terms of preparing them for their futures and skills that they need to have. And, I also think you brought up a great point about being vulnerable. Kids appreciate when we are learning with them or when we take ownership of challenges and move forward. So some really powerful stuff here for us to be able to share. And I appreciate all of your insights. So continuing our conversation, this next question is a little bit twofold. And the question is, how does your program or all the great stuff that you're doing, how do you see it tying in with our division goals? And how has this been impacted by our virtual learning, which you've touched on a little bit?
Well, I feel with my guys, they're really collaborating more. I mean, a lot of times I'll have kids that are in person, and they don't really want to share their ideas as much as some of the other kids. You know, you always have your guys that take over, or I do with my population anyway. And this gives them a chance, you know, to put the information in there and to share what they think without all that extra pressure of actually being in person. I think it helps. I have some folks that just cannot function in a classroom, you know, full kids, but they have been phenomenal this year virtual. I mean, I tell them every week, I am so proud of you. Look what you're doing, because they don't have that audience, you know, they're actually focusing on what they need to do.
Right. Like when you use Padlet as a back channel and they can go in and kind of think about what they want to say, you're giving a voice to those who normally don't turn their camera on, don't like to speak up in class, maybe don't like to even speak up in the chat because they get nervous or they don't type fast enough, and so they get, you know, they get anxious. But using like Padlet as a back channel, or, you know, using Flipgrid to be able to give that voice to all students opens up so much more conversation and collaboration and respect for each other. They start noticing, like, wow, so-and-so, like, I didn't know they knew that much about planets. Like, I want to talk to them because I love planets too. I never knew that about them. And so they're able to kind of take, you know, different looks at each other in a different way because they're able to go in and do these things with using the voice that they choose to use.
I have a 5th grader who has always been very articulate, but the kids are seeing now what a writer she is. And every week somebody says, she's going to be a writer, Miss Val. She is so good. And she just sits there and beams, you know, and I love that. You know, I do.
I think for me, one of the ways that it's impacted my students is that I have a lot of students who have a lot of confidence in their discussion. And sometimes that comes over as not being polite in discussion boards. And, you know, especially with certain folks that are, you know, they know that they're talented and and they want to tell everyone else what to do. So it's really opened up a great conversation. That's also a life skill. Because I actually, the other day, I said, you know, friends, when you turn 13, if your parents allow you to, you're technically able to have a Facebook account if you're allowed to at your house. You know, you have to be mindful about what you post online stays out there forever. So don't post something that you're going to regret posting. And I said, I won't go into detail, but that goes for pictures, that goes for anything you say. Always try to keep things in a kind, respectful manner, because it's going to come back. And so they really started thinking about, because I have some friends in my class that really they're the grammar police. It really cracks me up. There will be a discussion where they will be writing something, responding to something, and I will have a few friends that say, are you still forgetting your capital letters? And I have to remind them, hey, that's my job. I got it. It's okay. But just things like that. It's quite hilarious. I laugh my head off, and then I go and correct the behavior. So it's just learning to encourage those quiet kids who, it's great because they have that chance to think and to process and to respond, but also reining in those kids that are, you know, that are very confident and have no problem in that area, but teaching them how to be polite on a discussion board.
And that's another thing that they're really focusing on is our digital footprint. And that's one of the things they're trying to teach the kids. Like you said, you've got to be careful what you put out there because it is there forever. So that's something they really need to learn about, especially as we move so much more into, you know, online learning. And
I think with increasing their rigorous thinking too, which is definitely in line with our district goals, is teaching them really how to be a thinker, how to problem solve, and how to think independently, is allowing ourselves that vulnerability on camera. Like when I do my science groups, I don't pre-do the experiment, and I tell them that. I'm like, we're going in together. It may flop. It may be a miserable mess, and we're going to have to, you know, deal with it. But that's science. Like, Every scientist has to deal with the fact that they make they go ahead and hypothesize, and it may be a disaster, but that's a learning experience too. And, we're teaching responsibility. Like, okay, we just made a huge mess in this kitchen. Who's cleaning this? Y'all are cleaning this. Don't let me hear that mom and dad had to clean up after you. This is your mess. You can see them start to gather things, and it's teaching that responsibility piece, but it's also promoting that thinking, like, you've got all this stuff in your house that you can use. You don't have to go out and buy materials. You don't. And I that like we're going to use what we have. We're not going to have to go make 10 shopping trips. So start doing some of these on your own and get interested in it and think about what you can do. Send me some ideas. We'll do them together and we'll see if they work. So.
And I know I keep talking about this conference, but it was so wonderful. There was a person who did a presentation, and he said STEM is not just a hands-on activity. We have to create a STEM culture. We always have to question everything, and we have to challenge everything. And that was really meaningful. I'm going to have to focus more on that.
Well, I'm going to pipe in very quickly, Dr. Culp. You mentioned a second ago, you asked how virtual learning had really changed our focus on the 5 C's. And I think one of the things that it did for us at Northern Shores, we focus a lot, and I think you've heard this as these ladies have talked, we talk about growth mindsets and really modeling for the kids to be risk takers, and that learning is a process. It's not an endpoint for them. And I think virtual learning has really just created a larger opportunity to demonstrate that for kids. They've really watched us this year have to learn along with them. And we were talking the other day, we've had a lot of meetings with different groups, and we were kind of talking about using visual representations of how we felt in August and then how we felt now. A lot of humor involved, so I won't share all of it. However, one of the things that really stuck out to me, one of the individuals put up a picture of a quote, and it said something to the effect of, it's not really virtual learning. Let's kind of rethink that. It's virtual connecting. And that just really resonated with, because it has been such a great opportunity, as these ladies have just said, to teach communication and collaboration skills with kids. And if we can teach them how to communicate and collaborate what they're thinking, the other pieces will fall into place in time, and they will learn more and grow more from the ideas that they are able to share with others. So I think that's really important to note, that this really has offered more opportunity to capitalize on those things.
Right.
Fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. Absolutely. So that ties in really well with my next question, which you all have spoken to, which is, how are students benefiting from this? So I think you've made it extremely clear. And I love the idea of virtual connecting. That's really powerful. I like that phrase a lot. So we've talked a lot about how students are benefiting in all the different ways they're learning kind of those life-ready skills through some of this work. Anything else you would add to the previous conversation just about benefits for students?
Well, I kind of feel like, I think all of us in the beginning were worried about, okay, being online, how am I going to make those connections with my students and have them feel like a community? Because we do so much in the beginning of the year with, making them understand that we are a family for 180 days and really working on that, having that mindset. And I think we were all a little worried about, like, how is this going to go? But I find the connection is still there. Doing the things that we're doing is helping them connect to each other, and they're able to see, like, one of my students loves dinosaurs. We have a new student that now loves dinosaurs, and they're connecting. Like, they're able to kind of still make those bonds, even though they're not in the same physical setting. They're still connecting, and we're connecting with each other. And sometimes we do silly morning activities that are just absolutely hysterical. If you want a good morning warm up, have them put their dry erase board on their heads, and then you name an object. You give them like 2 minutes to draw the object. They have to draw it on their heads. I have never laughed so hard in my entire life that I did when, and I'd say, all right, everybody show their, and we were dying. It's those moments that you miss hearing them laugh, and that's that connection again. And we were we were hysterical. It was the funniest thing, because you think you're nailing it until you look at yours. You're like, oh my gosh, that's not fun. But it's so much fun. So you have to still, embrace the fact that they are still kids, and they still need to have those moments of being silly with you and just being silly with each other and having fun together.
All right, thank you. So to wrap up our wonderful time together today, my final question for you all is, what recommendations would you share for your colleagues or anyone who is interested in engaging in this work? And then, of course, any final comments that you all have.
Well, when I think of recommendations, I think about what I was talking about as far as making the videos. And I'm going to readily admit that this was like a personal goal for me. You know, I learned how to maneuver around iMovie, and I know that that's not a Suffolk product. Products are curse words in Suffolk. But anyway, so I used, don't tell Mr. Littlefield. So I used the iMovie app on my phone. So I actually took shots with my phone and then just stitched them together in iMovie and then uploaded it through Canvas Studio. So not everybody's going to have that, and that's okay. Honestly, you don't have to create a book trailer. You can just simply open up your school issued laptop, open up Canvas Studio, do the web capture, show 5 objects, and ask the kids, hey, why do you think this is special? And maybe those objects have to do with the main idea of that book, just to try to draw them in. And even with, making a recipe. And I even thought about making a craft. I've even actually thought about having as because I'm again trying to up my virtual learning game as we go into this next 9 weeks. What can I do to better engage them? Maybe as a reward, have a craft time or have something where I draw something or demonstrate, but again, using my laptop with the camera. Even with the recipe, you don't have to splice it up and edit it. You can simply just put it on the kitchen counter and say, and you may not have an Instagrammable kitchen. That's okay. We're educators. It's not going to look perfect, but put it on the counter and say, today, I'm going to show you how to make a healthy snack using this recipe that's in your module. You can still do those things with them to engage without any kind of editing software. You can just take a raw cut of video and do that with them.
I would just tell other educators, just don't be afraid to try new things. Like I said, this time last year, I knew practically nothing about, how to use these things. I have a son who's a teacher in Richmond, and every time I would ask him how to do something, he goes, Mother, I've told you, you need to figure it out. So now, instead of asking questions, I go and Google things, and you just can't be afraid to try new things. I mean, I was terrified last year, but now I just kind of jump in with both feet. And like we said about the kids, they're more than willing to help you. And believe me, they help me a lot because it doesn't always come across like it's supposed to. But just don't be afraid to try new things. And this is from somebody who's been in this business for a long, long time. Never thought I'd be teaching this way, but I really think it's going to change the way I teach going forward, even when we're back in person.
Mm-hmm. I think that as well, that having the ability to record my lesson, my reading lesson, and be able to, be over dramatic, and embrace the fun in it, is something that I definitely think I would keep doing as we move forward, to have that available for kids if they want to rewatch the lesson at home that night because they need to get another context clues, main idea, or they're out, they go on vacation, they're sick, whatever it is, they've got, they know they've got the skill recorded and they can always look back at it to study for tests or, so there's definitely things that I'm hoping will all continue that are just, that have been such a game changer for us. And we realize we can do this, we can still do this, even if we're not virtual.
Yeah. And I think, if I could add, I think too, with just simply having a video of us, I think taps into their socio-emotional learning. I know that many students have, and this happened actually last year when we first had to go into virtual, where that's when I started reading aloud. I was recording off of, I think I started off of Class Dojo and then changed to Google Meet recordings. Those were the early days of recording. And, I told my parents, I was like, I know our kids are nervous. They're scared. If we're scared of what's going on and we're adults and we know how to verbalize it, what are they feeling? And so I actually suggested to many of my parents, hey, at the end of the day, you're tired. Play me on their laptop, play the read aloud at the end of the day or at night. And I actually had a little girl who she was already dealing with the death of her grandmother, before the pandemic. And I knew she was crying a lot, and she was talking to her counselor. And her mom actually shared with me, she's like, your read alouds have been the best thing for my daughter, because she's like, she hears your voice. It's comforting. It's something that's familiar to her, and it actually helps her go to sleep. Now, that's probably the only time that anyone goes to sleep that's going to be considered a compliment to me for my reading. But it was just wonderful to not only just, as educators, we're not there just to teach them, but we're also there to encourage them as people, as individuals, and grow them beyond the academics. And it was wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to do that through video.
Last spring, we met every Thursday night, and that was our standing night for playing a gym kit together. And families were invited to play, siblings. Miss White jumped in a couple times and played, and she got really competitive with the kids, and they were all like, oh, Miss White just froze us. They were so insulted. And I said, look, don't count her out.
So that's my fun fact. I am a very competitive person, just so you know.
But it was keeping us connected, and it was nice. It was something they could look forward to that was just fun,
Mm-hmm.
I would have just one recommendation, and these ladies know this here at Northern Shores, but I think some of the same things that we talk about with the kids as far as making sure that they're communicating and collaborating is also really important for us as educators to remember sometimes, because this virtual world can be so isolating. And we're so focused and do a great job of making sure that the kids feel connected and collaborative. And I think it's really important, though, too, that we as educators remember that we're not in isolation, and that it's okay to ask, and that it's okay to collaborate. We're carrying a very heavy load, and it's okay to share ideas and to share strategies with one another. I know I'm gonna give a shout out to our Florence Bowser friends. They started using the sandbox. I think Dr. Culp, you had helped with that process as well. And that was something that in a prior meeting, I heard you talk about and went, oh, we've been looking for something to help with that. And we've modeled that here. I know Ms. Val works K-5 and is able to use the sandbox to drop lessons for enrichment K-5. Mm-hmm. So she's able to touch all of the students in our building just because you shared that and Ms. Griffin shared that in a meeting one day. So I think that's really important to remember too as we move forward, to don't be afraid to ask questions and to share ideas.
I love that. I think that's a really important end note, and definitely my hope for our time together through these Lunch and Learn series to highlight there's so many great things going on across our schools, and you all are a perfect example of that. So I hope that our colleagues will get some fantastic ideas and suggestions from everything you've shared. Thanks for putting out all these great suggestions, and I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.